the discussion, please check the PowerPoint presentations I have uploaded to our Google Classroom for that will serve as your final attendance in this subject. Today's discussion is additional information from the chapter presentations found in our Google Drive. And I hope that by now, for how many weeks and days, you were able to finish watching the entire presentation, chapter presentations. So last year, we had the presentation of Group 1. They were assigned to present the history of global politics creating an international order. Also, the presentation of Group 2, Section AU, the United Nations, and the contemporary global governance. In this discussion class, in this presentation, I still need to include informations about the United Nations. Okay? So here are the topics for this recorded discussion. First, we're going to discuss the United Nations, the 5 permanent seats of United Nations, and also the principal organs of United Nations. Then we have NATO, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I wasn't able to discuss this last year, so I'm going to include this in this presentation. Next, we have the world of religions, then the globalization of religion. Also, we have media and globalization, the global city, global migration, or global demography, environmental crisis and sustainable development, and lastly, we have global citizenship. Now, there are several international organizations that governments of countries around the world participate in. We have the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, sometimes known as the World Court. We also have NAFTA, or the North American Free Trade Agreement, and NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Aside from that, there are also non-governmental organizations promoting social and economic growth. So I'm going to discuss first about these NGOs before I'm going to present the United Nations. So for example of non-governmental organizations, we have the Red Cross. It's an international organization that was developed out of war. And when we say non-governmental organizations, obviously these are organizations not tied to any country. Okay? And these allows these different organizations, non-governmental organizations, to operate freely throughout the world. So going back, the Red Cross, they provide emergency relief such as food, water, and medical supplies for those homes or towns that have been destroyed by disaster or war. Part of why it is important for the Red Cross to be an NGO class is that they remain neutral and would help the wounded from both sides of war. And since they are neutral, governments are more likely to let them come into their countries to help. So as what you can see in the presentation, these pictures show how the Red Cross provides critical assistance in Lviv, Ukraine during the heightened war between Ukraine and Russia way back March 2022. Okay. So again, you can see, and even aside from seeing these photos to helping people around the world, some of the presenters mentioned, they gave examples of NGOs in their presentation. So we have Doctors Without Borders. These organization provides free emergency healthcare in disaster areas. We also have Oxfam. It's a British-founded confederation of 21 independent charitable organizations focusing on fighting famine and disease. We also have Amnesty International. It speaks out for human rights and political prisoners. Also, we have Save the Children. These organization class helps kids get health care and education. So let's go over to the United Nations. The United Nations class is one of the leading political organizations in the world where nation states meet and deliberate. The term United Nations was coined by former U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt in the year 1942, and its operation began on October 24, 1945. Generally, our issues, economic issues, environmental issues, and also human protection. So let's talk about the principal organs of the United Nations. First, we have the General Assembly, then the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, or also known as ECOSOC. Then we have the Trusteeship Council, the UN Secretariat, and lastly, we have the International Court of Justice. So let's start with the General Assembly. General Assembly class is the gathering of all member countries around the world. It provides a forum for member states to express their views and reach a consensus. And General Assembly is held in an auditorium where speeches are given, from different representatives. So representatives from different member states class can vote on issues without resorting to violence or war. So these pictures were taken last year during the first plenary meeting of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. So having the theme of a watershed moment, transformative solutions to interlocking challenges. Next, we have the Security Council. This group of countries class decides what to do when two or more countries are waging war or on the verge of fighting. So, in UN Security Council, there are 5 permanent members, or also known as P5. We have the United States, United Kingdom, Russia, China, and France. In addition to 5 members, 10 additional countries join the permanent members for 2-year terms, making a total of 15 countries. So I just like to emphasize now because I think this was not explained clearly in the chapter presentation why from 5 to 15 member countries, permanent member countries. Again, there is additional 10 countries class to join the permanent members for only 2-year terms. Okay? Now, the Security Council tries to be the arbiter in ceasefires between two sides. They can pass sanctions like block trade with another country as punishments. They can also send troops or observers, and if worse comes to worse, they can use military force. So the earliest armed peacekeeping operation was the first UN emergency force. And that was deployed successfully in 1956 to address the Suez crisis. Then, going back to the P5 class, the Big Five now, permanent members of United Nations, they have a veto power. When we say veto power class, this means that one member, any member of these permanent 5, either the United States, France, Russia, China, United Kingdom, they can stop the entire council from taking action against a country. So since 1992, Russia class has been the most frequent user of the veto power, followed by the United States and also China. France and the United Kingdom have not used their veto power since 1989. So way back 2011, Russia, backed by China, cast the 14th UN veto on Syria to block cross-border aid. That was during the Syrian civil war, in which Russia and China, who are the allies with the Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad, have been able to stop the other members from stepping in to deal with the Syrian leader who was accused of using biological weapons against his own people. Okay, so aside from the UN Security Council, we have another organ of the United Nations. We have the Economic and Social Council, or ECOSOC. The United Nations class is not all about fights. It also brings people and issues together to promote collective action for a sustainable world. So we have sustainable development goals that cover a range of concerns for the improvement of all aspects of life. The United Nations class has a program called UNICEF, or the United Nations for Children's Emergency Fund, and its primary goal is to help children around the world. They collect funds to distribute emergency relief from famine and poverty and also disease. Now, challenges in line with environmental issues such as pollution and hazardous waste are addressed through the United Nations Environmental Program, or UNEP. As a response to the increasing rate of greenhouse gas emissions, the rising sea level, as what you can see, no, and observe in our environment today, and the occurrence of extreme weather patterns, they took efforts to mitigate climate change, like assessment of climate science, facilitation of climate agreements, and giving assistance to reduce emissions of gases throughout the globe. Next, we have the UN Trusteeship Council. The main goals of the international trusteeship system were to promote the advancement of the inhabitants of trust territories and their progressive development towards self-government or independence. The Trusteeship Council is made up of 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. Again, we have China, France, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The Trusteeship Council is authorized to examine and discuss reports from the administering authority on the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the people of trust territories, and in consultation with the administering authority to examine petitions from and undertake periodic and other special missions to trust territories. The next, we have another principal organ of United Nations, the UN Secretariat. The UN Secretariat class is made up of tens of thousands international staff working at the United Nations headquarters in New York, as well as UN offices in Geneva, Vienna, Nairobi, and other locations. The United Nations staff members are recruited internationally and locally, and also worked in duty stations and on peacekeeping missions. Okay. They serve the cause of peace in a violent world, okay, or serving the cause of peace in a violent world is a dangerous occupation. That's why those staff class, okay, those staff, I can assure you that those staffs of the UN Secretariat's class are knowledgeable on the different international laws. Okay, and especially about territories and other laws. Okay, not only international laws but laws through different countries because again, there are laws promulgated, for example, in the Philippines. Okay, there are laws promulgated in different states, but those laws no, are absent. Okay, are absent to other countries. Now, the ninth Secretary General of the United Nations, who took office on the 1st of January 2017, was Antonio Guterres, and up until today, no, he is still the UN Secretary General. Next, we have the International Court of Justice. So, this is located in Hague, Netherlands, and this is where the countries can settle disputes in a court of law as well as a place where war criminals and rulers who have done terrible things to their people can be put to trial for their crimes. And as more countries interact due to globalization, no, with one another, people are looking for the International Court of Justice to play a bigger role in the future of our world. There are also a variety of international courts and tribunals created by the United Nations. Aside from International Court of Justice, there are also a variety of international courts and tribunals created by the United Nations, such as the ICC, or the International Criminal Court, and the ITLOS, or the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea. Okay, so again, that's the International Court of Justice, the last principal organ of the United Nations. So in here, okay, please see the PowerPoint presentation file I have uploaded to our Google Classroom and click this link for you to be able to fill out this form for your attendance. Next, we have the NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And NATO class plays a big role in foreign conflicts. Okay? NATO is a defensive treaty or military alliance between 30 countries, 2 American countries, and the rest are European countries. So this treaty or international organization is based on the idea of collective security. The countries and this organization basically agreed to combine their militaries and announce to the world that if and when a country messes with one of its members, the other countries will come to their defense. Or an attack of one of the NATO's 30 member countries is an attack on all. That's in Article 5 in the 1949 treaty. NATO Plus was created after the Second World War with the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Okay? And former Soviet states like Poland and Croatia had joined NATO, making the present-day Russia class feel more threatened. Now, NATO has sent troops and undertaken military operations in Afghanistan, Kosovo, Iraq, and also in Africa. So again, that's NATO. Short discussion or description about NATO, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Next, we have the world of regions. Okay. In here, you need to look at regions as political entities. When we talk about political entities, these include nation-states, city-states, multinational states, multi-state nations, and autonomous regions. Also, we're going to assess or examine the reasons why countries formed or joined international, regional, or global associations or organizations. According to Mansfield and Miller, economic and political definitions of regions vary, but there are certain basic features that everyone can agree on. When we say a group of countries located in the same geographical specified area or are amalgamation of two regions or a combination of more than two regions, organized to regulate and oversee flows and policy choices, we refer to them as regions. Okay? Examples of regions we have, based on the definition, we have Americas, Asia Pacific, Europe, Middle East, or Africa. So those regions are made up of nations or countries. Now, also we have another term that you need to know. Okay. Regionalization class. This refers to the regional concentration of economic flows and the process of dividing an area into smaller segments called regions. So example of this is the division of region into different states or provinces. Okay. Then we have regionalism. It's a political process or it's a political ideology characterized by economic policy cooperation and coordination among countries. It focuses on the development of a political or social system based on one or more regions. Now, for the topic class of how countries respond economically and politically to globalization in various ways, please see the chapter presentations. Please see the chapter presentation of this found in our Google Drive because the presenters provided examples of these ways. Okay, and also some countries, some countries just like China, how they respond economically and politically to globalization. Now let's move on to the reasons why countries around the world formed regional associations or organizations. So again, class, governments, associations, societies, and groups form regional organizations or networks as a way of coping with the challenges of globalization. So the reasons why countries around the world formed regional associations or organizations: one, because of military defense. Okay, just like when European and North American countries created NATO. Okay, it's to provide protection of the member states of that organization. Then, second, to pool their resources to get better return for their exports and expand their leverage against trading partners. For example, we have the OPEC, or the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Its aim is to regulate the production and sale of the oil. Third, it is to protect their independence from the pressure of superpower politics. Then fourth, because of the presence of an economic crisis. So it's one out of the mentioned reasons why countries form regional associations or organizations. The Philippines class is a member of ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It's a regional grouping that aims to promote economic and security cooperation among its 10 members. We have Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So those are the member countries of ASEAN. Next, we have the globalization of religion. In the chapter presentation presented by your classmates, okay, found in our Google Drive, they explained how globalization affects religious practices and beliefs. Also, they gave analysis on the relationship between religion and global politics, or the relationship between religion and global conflict and also global peace. They also presented relationship relationship of religion and globalism. Okay. The reasons why globalization and religion have a complicated relationship, it's because first, these two concepts, okay, these two are entirely contrasting belief system. Second, religion and globalism clash over the fact that religious evangelization is in itself a form of globalization. Again, kindly check the presentation on this in our drive. And also, I will share the presentations. I'm going to create another file or drive, or I'll just post links that will redirect you to the presentation. Goods, information, and people move across nations at a pace and on a magnitude made possible by rapid advances in communication and travel, and these result in changing the face of human societies, shattering some cultures and social systems in much the same way. The Industrial Revolution and the expansion of trade transformed Europe and its colonies 250 years ago. So for religion, like the family and the economy, religion, by definition, is a universal and pervasive phenomenon. It is part of the cultural system. Okay? And because it is assumed to meet some basic needs, okay? Because it assumed to meet the basic needs of human beings. That's why, again, it's part of the cultural system. Now, religion class is interwoven with the social, economic, political life of the people, okay? Especially here in the Philippines, no? Because of our past. Okay. Now, Durkheim class, okay, he defines religion as a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden. For him, religions involve a set of symbols which arouses feelings of reverence or awe and are linked to rituals or ceremonial events such as church services practiced by community of believers. While religion performs a number of functions for society, it can also have these functions. That's why there was once a debate if religion unites us people or not. Some people would say that yes, it's true. Religion unites us people. Okay, but there are also some that would say that it divides people. Okay. Now, it's your class. Religion unites people. It also divides people. Okay. Again, it's religion can be a divisive force in our society. Okay. While religion provides unity for those of the same faith, it again may also be a disintegrating factor. Historically, wars have been fought over religion. For example, in Israel, there has been that age-old conflict between the Jews and the Muslims. In the Northern Ireland, the bitter wars have been waged between the Catholics and the Protestants. And in the Philippines, the question of religion has been a divisive factor between Christians and Muslims, particularly in Mindanao. So, again, okay, that's religion. It can be a, it can be, it can, religion provides unity, but it also be a disintegrating factor. Okay. So, globalization class has played a tremendous role in providing a context for the current revival and the resurgence of religion. So today, most religions are not relegated to religions have in fact spread and scattered on a global scale. Okay, so globalization have been created. If you're going to search on the internet, you can see lots of informations about particular religion. Okay? And then, aside from that, this makes pieces of information plus and explanations about different religion ready at the disposal of any person regardless of his or her geographical location. Also, the internet allows people to contact in the dissemination of religious ideas. However, in the context of globalism and religion, it has been okay. It has been difficult for religion to cope with the values of liberalism, consumerism, and rationalism, and this actually was given emphasis on the presentation of your classmate. Again, no, it has been difficult, class, for religion to cope with the values of liberalism, consumerism, and rationalism. Such phenomena advocate class scienticism and also secularism, or the separation of religious institutions from state institutions, and a public sphere where religion may participate but not dominate, or the belief that religion should not be involved with ordinary social and political objectives. Okay? So, again, that's globalization of religion. Next, we have media and globalization. Please check the chapter presentation of this in our drive. Okay. Globalization class entails the spread of various cultures and ideas through which it relies on media as its ideas. So media, according or as described by Jacques Ellul, it's a means of conveying something, such as a channel of communication. Commentators refer to media as technologies of mass communication. So here are examples of media. For print media, we have books, newspaper, and magazines. For broadcast media, we have radio, film, television. For digital media, we have two types, no? The internet. Under internet, we have the emails, internet sites, and the social media, the different social media platforms. Okay. And also, internet-based video and audio. Then we also have the mobile mass communication. So again, those are examples of media. Now, Marshall McLuhan class once declared that the medium is the message. And again, if you have read the reference material, it's included there. Okay. Marshall McLuhan declared that the medium is the message. Television class shapes the social behavior of users and reorient family behavior. Okay. Smartphones allow users to keep in touch instantly with multiple people at the same time. This technology or medium and the message, and not the message class, makes social change possible. So what does this mean? The importance lies in the medium. Okay, again, the medium is the message. The importance lies in the medium. The way in which the message is transmitted and not necessarily the content presented through the medium. So televisions, radios, and newspapers have been shaping individuals subjectively and culture, not only locally but also globally. So, while globalization allows the expansion of information, access to modern technologies is not a universal matter. Okay. What I'm trying to say, class, is that these advantages, okay, the access to modern technologies, these advantages, class, in today's generation are not available to every person around the world. No? the internet, okay, and other technologies, for example. These are limited by certain barriers. Okay, and what are these barriers? These are the lack of electricity. There was a published article way back 2019 that at least 1.2 billion people around the world are still living in the dark. Okay? And also, aside from that barrier, we also have illiteracy, okay? Weak financial systems, and also government regulation. All media is strictly controlled, and citizens have virtually no freedom of expression, and the internet is only accessible to a small number of powerful individuals in Pyongyang. Okay. Television and radios in North Korea plus can only be accessed by North Korean operated stations. And accessing foreign media is illegal and punishable by death or imprisonment in political prison camps. Okay. So again, that's um, a summary, additional information of media and globalization. With the values of liberalism, consumerism, to cope with the values of liberalism, create another, or I'm going to create a separate file to also lessen the file size. And this will also makes it easier for you to view the file. And since I'll be posting these files, both the PPT and this recorded discussion to our Google Classroom, in the comment section below the announcement class, please leave your full name and mark as done, meaning you have already watched this file. I've noticed that any announcement or about your recent announcement, nobody replied to the post. Okay, that's why I'm going to delete the post I have posted in our Google Classroom about your final examination because I'm going to change the date of your final exam. Okay? I'm going to change the date of your final exam because I still need to create again another file, separate file, or I'm going to post a link that will redirect you to the different presentations, not only by this section, for example, AU section, but I'm going to also get some presentations from section BB and also from section AU, and I want you to check the presentations of these groups. Okay?